On this day in history, November 30th, Otto II led a massive Franco-German army to besiege Paris on November 30th, 978, as part of the ongoing Franco-German War. The siege proved unsuccessful against the well-fortified Frankish defenders. Otto II was forced to withdraw his forces, marking a significant setback in his campaign to extend Holy Roman influence into West Francia. British forces and their Creek allies launched an ambitious assault on the Spanish-held fortress of Pensacola on November 30, 1707. The siege operations were hampered by strong Spanish defenses and effective counterattacks from the garrison. After several weeks of failed attempts, the British were forced to abandon their campaign, leaving Spanish Florida firmly under Spanish control. Charles XII of Sweden was inspecting trenches during the siege of Fredrikstad Fortress when he was struck by a projectile in the head on November 30, 1718. The death of the warrior king occurred during his second campaign to conquer Norway, which was then under Danish rule. His death marked a turning point in the Great Northern War and effectively ended Swedish imperial ambitions. American and British diplomats met in Paris on November 30, 1782, to negotiate the preliminary articles that would eventually become the Treaty of Paris. The American delegation, led by Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and John Jay, successfully negotiated terms highly favorable to the United States. The preliminary agreement laid the groundwork for American independence and established the new nation's territorial boundaries. Grand Duke Pietro Leopoldo I of Tuscany enacted a groundbreaking reform of the criminal justice system on November 30, 1786. The reform made Tuscany the first modern state to completely abolish capital punishment, replacing it with life imprisonment. This revolutionary decision influenced later reforms across Europe and is now commemorated annually as Cities for Life Day. The Balmas expedition departed from Spain, led by Dr. Francisco Xavier de Balmas, carrying the smallpox vaccine to the Americas and Philippines on November 30, 1803. The expedition used orphan boys as living carriers of the vaccine, transferring it from arm to arm during the journey. This humanitarian mission would ultimately save countless lives and became one of history's first international public health campaigns. The Russian Navy under Admiral Pavel Nakhimov launched a surprise attack on the Ottoman fleet anchored at Sinop harbor on November 30, 1853. The Russian ships systematically destroyed the Ottoman squadron using superior firepower and innovative shell-firing guns. The battle resulted in the complete destruction of the Ottoman fleet and marked a significant escalation in the Crimean War. Confederate General John Bell Hood on November 30, 1864, ordered a frontal assault against entrenched Union positions at the Battle of Franklin. The attack resulted in devastating casualties for the Confederates, including the loss of 6 generals and thousands of soldiers. This battle effectively destroyed the Confederate Army of Tennessee as an effective fighting force. The first official international football match was played between Scotland and England at Hamilton Crescent in Glasgow. The match on November 30, 1872, ended in a 0-0 draw with both teams showcasing different playing styles. This historic game laid the foundation for international football competition and established many conventions still used in the sport today. The Soviet Red Army launched a massive invasion across the Finnish border on November 30, 1939, marking the beginning of the Winter War. The Soviet forces conducted air raids on Helsinki and several other Finnish cities, catching many civilians off guard. Despite the overwhelming Soviet numerical superiority, the Finnish forces were well prepared for winter warfare and mounted a strong initial defense. The Empire of Japan and Wang Jingwei's reorganized National Government of China signed a pivotal treaty on November 30, 1940. The agreement granted Japan extensive economic and military privileges in China, effectively making the country a Japanese protectorate. The treaty was so heavily skewed in Japan's favor that historians later compared it to the infamous 21 Demands of 1915. The civil war in Mandatory Palestine erupted on November 30, 1947, setting off a chain of violent confrontations between Jewish and Arab communities. The conflict intensified following the UN partition plan, which proposed dividing the territory into separate Jewish and Arab states. This civil war would eventually evolve into the 1948 Arab-Israeli War after Israel declared independence. Sir Andrew Cohen, the governor of Uganda, took the dramatic step on November 30th, 1953, of deposing Edward Mutesa II, the Kabaka, king of Baganda. The Kabaka was forced into exile in London, creating a significant political crisis in Uganda. This exile would last until 1955, when negotiations allowed for Mutesa's return under new terms. A truly extraordinary event occurred on November 30th, 1954, when the Hodges meteorite crashed through the roof of a home in Sylacauga, Alabama. The space rock struck Mrs. Ann Hodges while she was napping on her couch, making her the first documented case of a human being hit by a meteorite in the Western Hemisphere. Mrs. Hodges survived the incident, though she sustained significant bruising from the impact. Eastern Airlines Flight 512 met with disaster on November 30th, 1962 at New York's Idlewild Airport, now JFK. The aircraft crashed during a difficult landing attempt in heavy fog conditions. The tragic accident resulted in 25 fatalities. Pro-Soviet communist groups in the Philippines established their new youth wing on November 30th, 1967, called Malayang Pagkakaisa ng Kabataan Pilipino. The organization aimed to mobilize young Filipinos in support of communist ideals. This development marked a significant expansion of communist influence among Filipino youth. Iran executed a bold military move on November 30th, 1971, by seizing the islands of Greater and Lesser Tunbs. The islands were taken from the Emirates of Sharjah and Ras Al Khaimah in a surprise operation. This territorial acquisition would become a lasting point of contention in the Persian Gulf region. White House Press Secretary Ron Ziegler made a significant announcement on November 30th, 1972, regarding the Vietnam War. He informed the press that there would be no more public announcements about American troop withdrawals from Vietnam. Ziegler noted that troop levels had decreased to 27,000, marking a dramatic reduction from previous years. Representatives from the United States and Soviet Union began crucial negotiations in Geneva on November 30th, 1981, regarding intermediate-range nuclear weapons in Europe. The talks were part of broader Cold War-era efforts to reduce nuclear arsenals and tension between the superpowers. These particular meetings concluded inconclusively on December 17th. Operation Desert Storm officially concluded on November 30th, 1995, after years of monitoring and enforcement activities. The operation had successfully achieved its primary objectives of liberating Kuwait and degrading Iraq's military capabilities. This formal end marked a significant milestone in U.S. military involvement in the Persian Gulf region. A historic corporate merger occurred on November 30th, 1999, when Exxon and Mobil signed a massive $73.7 billion agreement. The merger created ExxonMobil, which became the world's largest company at the time. This consolidation represented one of the largest corporate mergers in history. Anti-globalization protesters in Seattle on November 30th, 1999, caught police forces completely unprepared. The massive demonstrations effectively disrupted the World Trade Organization meeting taking place in the city. The protests forced organizers to cancel the opening ceremonies and marked a turning point in anti-globalization activism. British Aerospace and Marconi Electronic Systems completed a transformative merger on November 30th, 1999. The union created BAE Systems, which became Europe's largest defense contractor. The newly formed company also ranked as the fourth largest aerospace firm globally. NASA launched Space Shuttle mission STS-97 on November 30th, 2000, marking the 101st shuttle mission in the program's history. The mission carried crucial solar arrays to the International Space Station. The successful deployment of these arrays significantly increased the station's power generation capabilities. John Sentamu made history on November 30th, 2005, when he was enthroned as the 97th Archbishop of York. His appointment marked the first time a black archbishop served in the Church of England. Sentamu's elevation to this position represented a significant milestone in the Church's history. OpenAI introduced ChatGPT to the public on November 30th, 2022, marking a significant advancement in conversational AI technology. The chatbot quickly gained widespread attention for its ability to engage in human-like dialogue and perform various language-based tasks. ChatGPT's launch sparked extensive discussions about the future of AI and its potential impact on society. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more awesome content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update, and I'll see you in the next video.